Miyamoto Musashi is a swordsman from the early Edo period of Japan, legendarily known as the strongest swordsman in Japanese history. He is born in the year 1584, during a time when Japan is divided by civil war between feuding warlords. He lives in Miyamoto Village under his full name, Shinmen Musashi no Kami Fujiwara no Harunobu, but is referred to as a child as Benosuke. His father, Shinmen Munisai, is a talented swordsman who teaches him the ways of the sword. Munisai is a strict instructor, offering no mercy for his son. For the first 9 or 10 years of his life, Musashi learns his father's techniques under this harsh environment. However, Munisai is killed during a duel, leaving Musashi no choice but to travel on his own, renaming himself Miyamoto in honor of his hometown. As early as the age of 13, Musashi begins a series of famous sword duels he later becomes famous for. His first duel, a duel to the death, is against a swordsman named Arima Kibe. Arima had just murdered a young child from the village and continues this streak by challenging Musashi as they pass each other on a mountain road. With only a wooden bokuto, Musashi strikes him down, killing him on the spot. By the age of 16, Musashi declares his goal of perfecting his kenjutsu techniques as the greatest swordsman in Japan. One of his earliest feats is his participation in the Battle of Sekigahara, a critical conflict between the Toyotomi and Tokugawa clans vying to unify Japan. He fought skillfully under Toyotomi Hideyoshi, even though the Tokugawa shogunate ultimately wins, ushering in the Edo period. During this new era, Musashi continues to wander Japan, dueling 3 key members of the Yoshioka clan. In the first 2 bouts, Musashi overcomes his opponents by taking advantage of their emotions, intentionally frustrating them by arriving late. With a single bokuto, Musashi emerges victorious, causing his opponents to retire in dishonor. Angered by their defeat, the Yoshioka clan intends to trick and assassinate Musashi under the pretense of a third honorable duel. Musashi catches on to this, finding it suspicious that the duel is set to occur at night. Instead of falling for their trap, Musashi watches from the bushes as his opponent emerges clad fully in armor, accompanied by guards bearing firearms. Taking his chance, Musashi rushes into the fray, taking them by surprise and beheading his challenger. He fights his way out of the estate, for the first time realizing the usefulness of wielding 2 swords in battle, a standard katana and a shorter wakizashi companion blade. He later teaches this style, known as Niten Ichiryu. Musashi's Musha Shugyo, or warrior's journey, continues as he spends a few months training alongside spear-wielding monks at Hozoin Temple. He defeats Shishido Baiken, a Kusarigama sickle and chain warrior, and confidently bests the swordsman Muso Gonosuke on 2 separate occasions. His most famous opponent, however, is the swordsman Sasaki Kojiro. Kojiro is a master of the Nodachi, a long 2-handed sword, and is known for developing a deadly technique capable of slaying swallows in flight. The 2 arrange for a duel at Ganryu Island, and once again, as a means of disturbing his opponent's inner state, Musashi intentionally arrives hours late. In reaction, Kojiro is greatly angered, drawing his sword and discarding its sheath, to which Musashi responds, "If you have no more use for your sheath, you are already dead." Their bout is tense but brief. Kojiro rushes in for the first attack, but Musashi avoids it and counters by fatally breaking his opponent's ribs and piercing his lungs. Upon seeing the woeful faces of officials, realizing he has killed one of the world's greatest swordsmen, Musashi vows never to participate in another fatal duel. Regardless, Musashi continues to challenge opponents in non-lethal duels, earning his reputation as Japan's finest, until during the Shimabara Rebellion, when he is injured by a falling rock. Retiring as a warrior, Musashi secludes himself in a cave near Kumamoto, where he documents his mental state through swordsmanship into what he titles the Book of Five Rings. It contains 5 volumes: Earth, Water, Fire, Wind, and Void, each detailing a different aspect of the Niten Ichiryu style. The final volume, the Book of Void, however, contains his most profound philosophy. The concept of nothingness, or muko, is the highest mental state a swordsman can attain, and reaching this state is the key to mastering the sword. Musashi finishes his book before dying in the year 1645. While it is this Musashi who inspires works of fiction throughout history, the universe has many alternatives, differing timelines in which fate can take a new direction. In one such timeline, Miyamoto Musashi is not born as a man, but rather a woman. Feeling disgraced, unwilling to pass his techniques onto a female, her father, Shinmen Munisai, abandons her. Stubbornly, however, Musashi builds a hut directly in front of her father's house, and while she doesn't inherit her father's style as a starting point, she nonetheless becomes a talented swordsman, using the same katana and wakizashi style as her more historically renowned male counterpart. Despite being a woman in an age dominated by male warriors, Musashi has one particularly special advantage: her mystic Empyrean Eye, or Heavenly Eye. It allows her to see, among various possibilities, the one instance she desires, and make that outcome inevitable. In combat, she can envision landing a fatal strike and eliminate all other possibilities to ensure her blade makes its mark. Much like the historical figure, this Musashi also discovers the concept of nothingness, void or zero, as the ultimate mental state. She envisions this as a means of defeating her father, who claims to have reached a state of oneness with the sword. While she has yet to actually attain this nothingness, she sets her sights upon it and intends to pursue it for the rest of her life. In contrast to her relaxed demeanor, Musashi is a mess for alcohol, appeased by money, and passionate about free food. Thus, she is both open and cheerful, lively yet graceful. She enjoys life to its fullest, expressing herself boldly and falling in love easily. She's quite amicable, adoring praise, but when it comes to killing others in battle, she is calm and composed. Her sense of justice kicks in to protect the weak in one-sided massacres, and to punish those who tarnish the dignity of others for amusement. Unfortunately, not all possibilities are recorded by the planet. In some cases, the world will implement quantum time locks to cull various alternatives that deviate from an expected progression for mankind. This Musashi's timeline becomes one of these eliminated possibilities, ceasing to exist. However, because of her Empyrean Eye seeking out a means of pursuing swordsmanship, Musashi does not perish with her own timeline, instead gaining an ability to traverse between alternate timelines as a vagabond student of the world. While she yearns to return to her original world, she acknowledges that it no longer exists, and is driven to visit other worlds to find strong opponents. Her travels across space and time even take her to the American West, where she tests her skills against gun-toting opponents. As part of her journey, Musashi duels against a fellow Japanese swordsman, Yagyu Munemori, but finds herself outmatched and in trouble. To escape, she enters a portal to her next destination, but is struck in the head midway, being sent off to another world with a case of amnesia. Fortunately, she wakes up to find herself under the care of Ritsuka Fujimaru along the beaches of Onigashima Island. Her mysterious identity is cleared up early as she battles a pair of Oni kind, demons characterized by scorching heat. Musashi defeats them, only to discover that one of the Oni recognizes her sword techniques as that of the famed Miyamoto Musashi. With this revealed, Musashi is excited to learn from Ritsuka that in proper history, Musashi is a man who goes on to be extremely famous. In exchange for the information, Musashi spares the Oni and continues to remain near Ritsuka to learn more about Chaldea and their mission. They're followed by a third Oni named Tsukeroku, who explains that to escape this Onigashima singularity, they will have to defeat 3 Devil's Gates. Thus, Musashi and Ritsuka confront each of these gates. At the first, they find Cleopatra, who is turning the area into a high-class spa. Musashi is intrigued, but retaliates after being conscripted for hard construction labor. She strikes Cleopatra down, but is saddened to do so. Upon learning that Cleopatra is merely returning to Chaldea as a heroic spirit, her worries are alleviated. At the second gate, they encounter Tamamo Cat, 3 of them more specifically, who all covet Ritsuka. The cats are defeated, and Musashi is surprised to hear that Ritsuka has so many acquaintances. They take a brief respite, during which Musashi demonstrates the Japanese tradition of cooking osechi, as it is fittingly New Year's Day. They proceed to the third and final gate, only to discover mysterious heroine X as their opponent. While X is certainly a worthy opponent, she is no match for Musashi's mystic eyes. On their short trek to the mountain's peak, Musashi learns of Chaldea's triumph over the Human Order Incineration Protocol. She thanks Ritsuka for winning those chaotic battles, as it has allowed her to continue traveling as a swordsman. At the top, a ray shift opens, and as Musashi is about to enter it, the Oni, Tsukeroku, ominously declares she will die, before turning into a hostile shadow servant. When Musashi strikes the Oni down, she discovers that he is actually the swordsman Arima Kihei, the very first person she had dueled, his grudges turning him into an Oni to pursue her. Either way, Musashi parts with Ritsuka, bidding them a Happy New Year. However, as fate would have it, the two meet again in Shimosa Province, the stage of rivers of blood and mountains of corpses. Musashi, having journeyed to this timeline, is enjoying an onigiri when Ritsuka comes falling from the sky. She catches them and restores them back to health. And once again, she and the Chaldean master find themselves fighting in a mysterious land, initially to protect 2 orphan children, Onui and Tasuke. They find themselves in the company of Sengo Muramasa, the famed Japanese blacksmith, who gifts Musashi the Myojingiri Muramasa, a cursed sword, harmful to its wielder. While Musashi normally only keeps 4 katana on her at any given time, she makes an exception to wield this sword against their new foes, the 7 heroic spirit blade masters. In battle, Musashi fights with her 2-sword style, Niten Ichi Ryu, and her noble phantasm is the 6 realms 5 planes, the divine figure of Kurikara, a technique in which she takes a firm stance before unleashing 3 distinct attacks: the lesser celestial thrust, greater celestial phenomenon, and a final blow, so powerful she is accompanied by a Neo, Tenmen Dai Jizai Tenjin, a god embodying her ultimate mastery of the mental state of nothingness. When the assassin servant, Kato Danzo, self-destructs, Musashi's eye is injured, and to cover it, she wears an eye patch made from a tsuba, or sword guard. Finally mastering the 5th Book of Void through fighting deadly heroic spirits, Musashi confronts none other than the heroic spirit, Sasaki Kojiro. Unlike the battle in Legend, Musashi finds her strength of Void being equally matched by Kojiro's skill, which in opposition to Zero, embodies the concept of infinity. In this state, the two are equally met in power, and are to be stuck between time, space, good and evil, in an eternal struggle to kill one another. However, this miraculous sword fight comes to an end thanks to Ritsuka's influence, allowing Musashi to finally defeat Kojiro, the Sword of Zero, destroying the Sword of Infinity. In the end, Musashi finds herself amidst a sea of flames in Amakusa's Onri Edo Castle as it burns to the ground. Upon inspecting the rubble, her body cannot be found, and only her tsuba eye patch is recovered. Regardless, it appears that at the end of Musashi's journey, she has finally mastered her sword style, and becomes a heroic spirit who can be summoned by Chaldea. She emerges outside Chaldea's Antarctic headquarters, freezing from the cold. From then on, she happily serves as a powerful ally and heroic spirit of Ritsuka Fujimaru, the woman whose femininity tore her from the path of legend she would otherwise embrace, forms her own legend, worthy of saving humanity. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe to Otaku Daikun for more anime lists, reviews, discussions, lore videos, live streams, and the Holy Waifu Wars. If you're interested in seeing this channel grow, please consider becoming a patron or donating in a super chat during any of my weekly live streams. Also, feel free to check the description for my social media profiles, including an ever-growing Discord full of fans of anime and the Fate series. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.